Hello everybody, welcome back to another Conversations with Projektor. Today we start with the topic, the name of my upcoming release. Before I go, you can contribute topics for this series on my Discord server.
Everybody else really liking the track, so that's very nice. Is the name of this track a secret right now, or will you reveal it when it's done? Right now it's not really a secret. I can reveal the name of it. It's called The Game of Life. The reason for that is it all has to do with this vocal over here talking about the game, right? And how it implements onto life. I got this from, I believe, some kind of chess video on YouTube or something like that. And it just had this guy like sitting in the park, one of those New York chess players, talking about what they liked about chess, and this part came through it, and I was like, I can sample that. That is like ambiguous enough that people don't immediately associate it with chess, which is kind of what you want for a vocal like this. You don't want it to have too strong of one topic when it comes to psytrance vocals, so that people can interpret for themselves how it relates to them. But the whole idea is, yeah, this is a track about life and how it's a game and how you have to play it yourself. That's why it also talks about believing and stuff like that. The only vocal that is a little bit out of there is this one over here, and this is just to break it up going into the more crazier sections when some of the synths start to play.
Snare tricks in the mix.
The other two things that we fixed are the snare. This thing over here, the snare now sounds nice. I did a little bit more than just re-render the snare over here. For those that remember, the mid snare was way too long. This thing over here, as you can see, it's now a little bit shorter. It used to extend up until like this point over here. So I kind of halved the timing and I made it even shorter over here. What I then did is I took the whole snare, I changed the EQ on it. So this EQ did not have this cut over here, which it now has. So I'll quickly let you hear the difference of what that sounds like in the mix. Just makes the snare a little bit thinner, as you can hear. And the second thing that I did is I added a gate to the snare. So what this thing is doing is it is essentially saying, okay, right after the transient, I want you to turn off the volume almost immediately, but keep in mind this release. So the volume is like slowly turning off over the course of 291 milliseconds, right? And I'll let you hear the difference of that as well. It just completely tightens up the snare here. I really don't need that washout feeling that the snare has, so this is an easy way to fix that. The annoyance is that with the smaller snares over here, you can hear now without or with the gate, it doesn't trigger properly. So what I think we'll do is we'll just bypass the snare gate here whenever the high snare isn't playing and whenever this stuff is like lower volume and stuff like that. That is probably the easiest way to fix that. So bypass, and then on the snare we have to go here and we'll turn the bypass up here. Might need to do the same thing over here as well in the progressive drop, but at least here as well. Overall, it is sounding nice though.
My microphone setup and processing.
Dash glitch uses the LCT 440 Pure. Might be mistaken though.
Okay, yeah, to be honest, I don't keep up with microphones too much. I'm happy with my $20 USB mic that I have now. Of course, in the future, it would be nice to have like a proper microphone so that maybe I would be able to record something and stuff like that. Not that the microphone that I have now is not good enough for that. You just need to work around the lack of quality that it has, the lack of headroom that it has. Essentially, you have to be really careful when recording with this microphone. And I think a little bit more of an expensive microphone would make it sound better. That would also count for the stream, of course. The amount of processing that I have to do on the microphone to make it sound somewhat decent. Like if I turn all of this off, it should sound terrible. So now the microphone should sound very bad. I don't know, I'll watch the stream back, but it shouldn't sound great here. And this should sound a lot better when I'm speaking. At least that is why I have the all of the processing in there. It's nice, but it needs huge gain input. The issue that I had with not with my old mic, but with my old interface is that it wouldn't go all the way up to 0, in that you could turn up the mic input gain, and then at a certain point it would just clip, but it would clip at like -6, -7, which was very annoying, because then I would always have to go in there and manually turn it up even more if I needed to. Now I have it in the new interface, and I have all of the headroom available that I can. And I just have, again, the input gain so that I can tweak it if it ever clips. But I think it's better now with just having more headroom and having more flexibility like that.
Reaper workflow issues.
By the way, now that Davey is here, you're a Reaper user, right? I have this, I guess not really a problem, but this annoyance with Reaper. And knowing its customizability, you probably know if this is possible. But anytime I create an automation clip, or an automation lane, sorry, like an envelope lane, I guess is the term in Reaper. What it does, it automatically adds a point at the start, right here. And that means that anytime I want to have a parameter, say, do like this, where I want, on one side, I want a parameter to be lower, and on the other side, I want it to be higher. For example, like this, I would always need to go back in here and move this up again. Whereas if you don't have a point here, you can just move this up and down and the line will stay flat. Is there a way that I can make it so that any automation lane that I make doesn't come with a starting point? It just gives me a flat line at the value that the parameter is when I make the automation lane, and then I can just start drawing without it having a starting point? Is there a way to do that?
So to clarify, inside of Ableton, if you make an automation, say for example like this, as you can see, you get a flat line over here, which means that it's really easy and quick to set a difference between one part of the track and a different part of the track in terms of setting a value. So say that you have a few elements over here that you want at a certain level, and then you have another element over here that you want at a different level. You can just fine tweak it over here, and that will just easily carry over. Whereas in Reaper, if I make a track and I go into the automation over here and I set, for example, the volume, let's say I do the same thing. I drag this down over here. As you can see, there's another dot over here that needs to be removed, meaning that if I'm zoomed into the project and I do something like this, I have to then zoom out, I have to remove the thing, and then I have to zoom in again. And of course, that's a little bit of a hassle, and if I can avoid that, that would be nicer.
You are a Reaper user, right? I am not misremembering here, right? Because otherwise that would be embarrassing if I do. I guess I can find this kind of stuff out after the stream as well, but this is why I have chatters, so that they can solve my problems. Because there's probably a setting for it, right? But if you go into preferences, I mean, the list of things that you can customize in here before I actually find this kind of stuff. Maybe it is in here. So show new envelopes, separated envelope lanes. This does have to do with the envelope. It can be in there. It may be like an action or a different thing entirely. There's just so many menus inside of Reaper. It's the kind of software that would take years to learn if you work with it every day. And I work with it like once every 2 months, maybe. Like a few days. Found it. Oh, nice. Where is it? Let's see. I'm assuming that I have to be somewhere in here with the envelope stuff. There's probably much more quality of life settings that I don't even know about. Like the fact that the other day I complained about that you weren't able to resize all of the tracks together, and then you hold control and it resizes all of the tracks together.
In automation settings, there is an option, add point before edit position.
Add point before edit position. Is it, you mean this one over here with the recording thing? So here. Let's say I make another volume here, just for a test, right? If I set this back here and now go to this volume here, it still makes a point here. Right, so this, as you can see, it's still a point over here. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I just know that whenever I have a point, I just need to go here. I put in my first point, I delete this one, and like then it's okay, right? Like I can just do this and make the edit that I wanted to. It's just you have to sometimes scroll to the beginning of the project, and that takes like 5 seconds. It's not the greatest time loss that I probably have during my mixing stage. Editing behavior. Preferences. Am I just not seeing things here then? Because I have this one. When recording, automation and stopped. In editing behavior. If no items are selected, some split, trim, delete actions affect all items at the cursor. I also don't want that. That's nice, because that has messed me up in the past before, where suddenly I had like all of my files split halfway in between, because instead of Control S to save, I just hit S and it splits the tracks and stuff like that. That's all the little things that you have to do that just sometimes take a little bit of extra time that throughout the mixing process become an annoyance and get you out of your flow. Whenever I have the capacity to fix that or to change my approach, I guess, or to change any of the settings that I'm using, it is nice that you then do that so that you don't have any issues in the future with that. Because it's, as I said, it's an annoyance, but it's not more than that, right? Like it doesn't really hinder you, for example. One of the things that did hinder me, for example, is before I knew that you could go in here, item properties, and change the gain over here, I would have volumes on all of the tracks. And that meant that anytime I bypassed through here, the track would get louder by 8 dB. That is something that once I learned that you were able to do here, that like actually sped up my workflow, because A/Bing stuff was much faster and you could A/B immediately all of the effects on and off. Whereas normally what I would have to do is then go in here and go like tick, 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 and then the volume would be here and I would leave that on. But now that's fixed, so now that's much better. Check no point, it's gone. I'm thinking I'm just missing something. So this is already set to do not add. I don't think it will be in here. When adding volume pen envelopes, apply trim to envelope and reset trim. Never. Yeah, okay, so this is also something that I changed. What this does is it means that the volume envelope that you apply, if you want to apply that to the fader, it will always start from 0 and it will leave the fader alone. So it doesn't take the fader volume and integrate that into the envelope. Looks like it's just when you record automation, not when you just draw some point. Yeah, that's what I thought. It will still give you the points in the beginning, but that's okay. That's okay. If it's not there, it's, as I said, it's not a huge issue, I guess.
The power of Melda plugins.
It is indeed funny for Melda plugin. They're more well known for 15 layers underneath the GUI. In general, they're known for being you're very hands-on with all of the things that you can tweak. The example that I always like to bring up is M-Turbo Reverb over here. Like you have the presets, which is your first layer, right? And you just get the preset that you want. Then within the preset, you have your second layer of the exact tonality of that preset. This changes very little. I rarely hear go through this and make judgments on this, but if you want, sometimes you want a little bit of a brighter version of that same reverb, as opposed to just a completely different reverb. This is where you will find it, by looking at these other things here. And then even then, if you want more stuff, like here you have all of the controls that you need to dial in basically the exact reverb that you want. But if you want even more control, you can go in here, and this is wild what is happening here. You can tweak each individual first reflection that is happening. You can write your own formulas over here. There's the algorithm designer and parameters and all that mess. And you have your dynamics part. You have an extra EQ. You have a mid-side EQ. You have, I don't know. This is, it goes really deep. I was hoping that they would have at least a similar kind of thing for their saturator, where you just have, right now what it feels like is that we only have this part of the saturator. Right, in the saturator that is on the thing, this one, it only feels like you can choose from these things here. I was hoping that there would be another layer below that. I guess that may be the harmonics here, but I've never really found any good sounds coming from this. Maybe this is one of the plugins that he is developing, because he is constantly adding new stuff to the bundle as well, which is really nice. Recently he added the M center, which per frequency allows you to set how wide a sound is. This was not something that you were able to do, at least not easily. You can do it in M Stereo processor, but you only have 4 bands, so you have control over the width of 4 bands. Here you have control over the width of all of the different frequencies, which is really cool. And this is spectral stuff, so there's like advanced stuff that you can do with it, smoothing and all of that stuff. So this is a great plugin. I need to work with, or I need to experiment with this more. But I'm hoping that maybe for the saturator he will do like a similar kind of thing where you may be able to draw in particular shapes, or you're able to draw in specifically for each frequency how much saturation you want, something like that. That would be really nice. M-Center is the newest, yes. Maybe using MXXX. I can try MXXX and just kind of create my own presets for like a proper saturator. Because MXXX, that is another one of those hugely powerful tools that I need to dive in more. But yeah, that could work. That could be an option.
That's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching. There's 2 more videos up on the screen right now if you want to continue watching. So just pick one and enjoy, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.